intellectual nonsense.
And like talking about the tariffs and all this stuff. I mean, the amount of people that I work on that want to bring this up, and I'm just like, listen, to me, to try to simplify it, I just feel like it's kind of like pissing in the wind. Like everyone's gonna get hurt by it. Like, and it's one of these things like where you see, I'll be scrolling through TikTok and I'm seeing things like, people going, oh, you know, an American will make a TikTok and they're like, well, we don't need anything from you. And then like a Canadian will respond and be like, well, here's all the shit that you buy from us. And like, I don't think, I think most people are very like uninformed, and like I'll count myself in that because I'll see some of this stuff and go like, well, I'd have to look it up, because like it's all numbers, it's all math, and you can definitely see, right? But that's where I think sometimes these politicians, they do say things where a, a lot of things that Trump says, people just eat it up, and that's what it is. Like whatever he says is fact. Where it's like, oh, we have we're subsidizing Canada. It's like, well, you have a trade deficit, like so you're buying our shit. So, but that's what trade is about. And for me, I'm going like, it's really weird that they're picking a fight with like their closest ally, who like nothing has been really wrong for like a long time. Like I don't know what the deal is with that, but maybe you can explain it because I have no idea.
It's tough to explain, and I mean, there's 100 different economics majors out there, and people thinking they know what's going on. In a nutshell, in my opinion, in a nutshell, it's very simple. The American nation is a consumer nation. They buy more goods than they produce at the moment, and that's why they are taking imports, and they have a trade deficit with multiple countries, not just us, multiple. Now Canada is a mineral export, natural resources powerhouse, right? We have a ton of goods, of raw goods like lumber, specialty metals, oil that we can export. Potash. So potash is a funny one because that's one that I don't no one really talks about, and it's a major deal. So the one thing you got to
Dude, I
remember
didn't
is,
even know what it
and
was.
yeah, no,
Like,
it's fertilizer basically.
yeah.
Without potash, you don't grow food. But basically, what and the problem that I have is because I read a study the other day, and it was the U.S. in 22 years will run out of all of these things. And then they're like, well, that's a 22-year from now problem. It's like, no, that's a problem right now. 22 years in the span of a country and how they have to plan is tomorrow. Like 22 years is tomorrow. And that's what really is what I don't get because for reference, and again, don't quote the exact dates here, but 10 years ago, Canada did not have the oil reserves it did. And all of a sudden, we found a huge another oil sands, and now we have the most oil in arguably the world. The other problem is our oil sucks compared to Saudi oil that comes out of the ground clean, easy to refine. That's a whole other conversation. But things can change. So right now the US is running out of resources. But tomorrow they could find deposits of uranium because the US produces very little uranium, which powers all their cities, all their nuclear subs, all their nuclear like reactors, right? And they get most of it from Canada. So it's one of those things where does the US need our stuff? Mm, yeah, there's no way around it. But the other than you look at the Canadian side and go, they need our stuff. They do, but not to the extent you think they need it. Like if we stop giving them oil, all of a sudden we're in a huge trade surplus. That's a fact. The Americans can argue that based on every statistic you can find. That's the fact. We don't ship them oil at a very, very good price, by the way, a very low price point that allows them to sell their oil higher. um, we're not in a trade deficit. In fact, if we raised our oil up 25% to them, the deficit shrinks to freaking like almost nothing. And that's where it comes into play. Where does the US need us? A lot of states do. A lot of I would say 30 million people in the US 100% depend on Canada. But that's 10% of their population.
It's like the northern states, right? Is what I've been hearing, like with their hydro and electricity, and like they would basically power a lot of these places, right? But that's where you hear like Doug Ford being like, "Oh, I'll turn the power off. I'll do it." It's like there's a switch, just like
And
Trump thought there's a
it
faucet
worked.
that opens up the water.
Yeah, and it works. Without Doug Ford's in other words, like, he went there and got schooled. If he didn't say he was going to turn the power off, do you think the U.S. would have called him and goes, "We need to talk"? Absolutely not. I'm sure somebody went there and went, "They're actually going to do it," because typically what happens here and what he's doing and why he waited until April 2nd is you form a team, and that team looks at if we put 25% tariff on Canada, what could happen, right? And you look at your BATNAs, your best alternative potential outcomes, right? And you try to find the best ones, and you try to find the worst ones. And in this group, you have what if Canada just puts retaliatory tariffs on us? What happens? Is that really bad? And to me, it is. To me, come April 2nd, the American consumer will notice a price jump like the Canadian consumer. And the difference with Canada is and it's funny, I golf a lot as you mentioned, and I was talking to our buyer at the golf course we play at the other day, and typically how it works is you have and I'm saying this so people understand, is in Canada, we won't have a tariff on Thailand, let's say. Thailand makes a lot of shirts, right? They make a lot of golf shirts, and then they ship them to a hub, right? So right now, how a tariff could affect the US worse than us is we won't have a tariff on Thailand, but the US will. So all of a sudden, we're getting the same golf shirt. Let's say it's a Puma golf shirt. I have no idea if they make them in Thailand. I'm just using Puma as an example. So Puma manufactures their golf shirts in Thailand. Don't know if that's true or not, but let's say they do. They ship them to a hub, which was in the US. That US is going to be paying the US company that's importing it is going to pay a tariff on that Thailand shirt, on that Taiwanese shirt. And then because I bought it in Canada, they're now going to ship that to Canada. So you're going to get a tariff in the US that's going to hit the US, that's going to raise the price in the US. And then from that hub, they're going to ship it to Canada, which is going to get another tariff because now it's a product coming from the US to Canada. And that product's going to be hit again. So all of a sudden, the price went up in the US and then in Canada by a little bit more. Well, all that's going to happen now is that Taiwanese company is going to set up a hub in, I don't know, Kelowna, BC. And they're going to bypass the US, ship the golf shirts to Kelowna to bypass the tariff, and then they're going to ship it back to the US, which is going to pay a 25% tariff, which might have been the same as they paid from Thailand. And all of a sudden, they just moved the hub, the main shipping hub, out of the US, which had tons of jobs, and they're going to move all the jobs to Canada. So that's one way how the US will be affected. They're going to lose jobs, pay more than the shirt, and Canada is going to reap the benefit, and we're going to pay the same price. And that's what people aren't thinking of. Again, is it going to hurt Canada more than the US? 100%. But to speak of this, I actually read another. I thought it was brilliant. Was someone said, "Hey, instead of charging me the carbon tax and telling people to do their part by paying it, why don't you give them the money and then ask them for the $300 back after, and let's see how many people are willing to do their part." Because everyone that's complaining about we need to do the part, we need to do the part. I guarantee you, when it has to come out of their when it literally is in their hand and they have to give it, they're not going to give it. And that's what we're about to find out.